Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today's video is part of a blog hop celebrating Neat and Tangled's 4th birthday. So I'm going to be using a bunch of Neat and Tangled products today. Starting out with the Geometric Blooms stencil, and then I'll go ahead and use the Celebrate stamp and dies. But first I'm going to do some stenciling. So I'm going to put out my work surface here. I'm going to use some texture paste or some shimmer paste over the stencil, and to protect my work surface I'm going to put down my craft sheet. This is a craft sheet from Ranger. It comes actually very much larger than this sheet you're seeing here, but I've cut it down to fit my work surface. So I've taped down some Neenah Solar White cardstock. This is the 80-pound version of that cardstock, and I've just used blue tape to tape that down. And then I've taken that stencil and also taped that down so it stays in place. I'm going to use 4 different colors of Tim Holtz Distress Ink re-inkers today. I'm using Abandoned Coral, Dusty Concord, Mustard Seed, and Picked Raspberry. I'm going to put a very small dot of each of these re-inkers onto my craft sheet, and then I'm going to be putting the paste into those colors and mixing up some custom colors. This is Platinum Shimmer Paste or Cosmic Shimmer Paste, and I'm just going to use a small palette knife to add some of that paste down onto my craft sheet and then mix it into that re-inker. Now the liquid or the dye from that re-inker is very, very concentrated. You only need a very small amount, and I have seen people, specifically Laura Basson, she's done this. She's created her own colors of embossing paste in the past. I don't think she's tried it with re-inkers before, and I really wanted these colors to be a little more vibrant, especially because I was adding them to platinum embossing paste or platinum shimmer paste, and I knew some of that color would be muted by all the glitter, so I wanted to really intensify that color. So that is the main reason why I'm using re-inkers, and also just because I don't think I use my re-inkers enough. I don't think I've needed to re-ink any ink pads yet, probably because I don't do really heavy techniques with my Distress ink pads. I mostly watercolor with them and blend backgrounds with them. But I have all these re-inker bottles, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to use them to make some DIY colors of shimmer embossing paste. And this stencil from Neat and Tangled was the perfect opportunity to do that. It reminds me of fireworks, and I'm going to be creating a birthday card today, so it's perfect for that. So I've done Mustard Seed and Abandoned Coral, and now I'm mixing it into Picked Raspberry. And you'll notice that because I'm using Platinum Shimmer Paste, it changes the color of that Distress ink quite a bit. Kind of mutes it down just a tiny bit, and it gives it a nice shimmery look and texture. So I'm going to add some more onto this. I'm making sure that I'm kind of mixing those colors as I go along. I want to avoid having any harsh changes of color. So after I did Picked Raspberry, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some of that paste in the Dusty Concord color. And this is a really intense color, and I think of all the different shimmer colors that I came up with today, this purple is gorgeous. I love it, and I think it's one of my favorites. So I'm going to add that to the very bottom corner of this stencil. And after I had all of the purple on, I realized that it was overpowering that pink, the Picked Raspberry color. So I'm going to go back to that Picked Raspberry texture paste pile that I've created and pick up a little bit of that extra that was left behind. And just so you're aware, I am cleaning off this palette knife in between colors, just on a baby wipe off to the side. So it makes it so I get a nice clean color as I come in, and I'm not over mixing the colors on my stencil. So I'm going to do a few swipes over that entire stencil to kind of clean up the area and make sure those colors are mixed. And then I'll immediately clean off my palette knife. You don't want that embossing paste, or in this case the shimmer paste, drying onto your palette knife because it'll be really hard to remove later. So I peeled up that stencil, and I immediately took that to a sink and wet it down with water and cleaned off that stencil. So now I'm going to use the stamp set, and I'm going to first stamp the longer sentiment that says "It's your birthday," and I'm prepping some vellum with an anti-static powder tool, and then stamping that sentiment in Versamark ink. I'm going to be doing some heat embossing on top, so I needed to use a sticky ink for this. So the embossing powder that I'm using is from Hero Arts. This is their white embossing powder. I really like this embossing powder because it seems to get all those fine details when I'm embossing sentiments or words. So I heat set that with my heat tool until it was smooth and melted. And then I also stamped the large Celebrate greeting from the same stamp set. Also onto some vellum. This is some Basil 40-pound vellum, and it seems to handle the embossing extremely well. There's not too much warping involved. So I'm using the die set that I showed at the beginning of the video, and it has 2 dies in that set. It has the word Celebrate, which matches the stamp set, and then also has an outer shape of that word, and I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to cut out that vellum piece. I'm going to do a little more die cutting. I'm using the Pizzazz Pieces dies from Mom Elephant. I'm just going to use the outer shape to create a fun kind of ribbon-edged shape on my shimmer paste piece. So I ran that through my die cutting machine, and now I have a fun shape to work with. The card base I'm using today is made out of some Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I just scored that at 5.5 to create a top folding card. Then put some foam adhesive on the back of that shimmer piece and adhere that down onto the card front. To adhere the greetings that I've stamped and embossed on vellum, I'm going to use a little bit of Ranger Multimedia Matte adhesive. This is a really strong adhesive, and it's going to adhere to that shimmer paste without any problem. So I'm using my tweezers to just get that in place, and then it goes down without any trouble at all. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more dots of that adhesive on the back of the Celebrate, and then I'll place that down onto the card. Now I did put an acrylic block over the top of this and let it dry for probably about an hour because that Celebrate wanted to peel up and kind of curl up from the surface, but after I let that dry for about an hour, I didn't have any problems. So that's the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want a chance to win some fun giveaway prizes from Neat and Tangled, head over to my blog today and check out the blog post. You'll see a link up in the top corner right now, or there's a link down in the video description. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.